One summer, I joined a volunteer program with my college friends in a rural part of California. It was a poor region, but a friendly one, home to people with a romantic spirit. We were there to help the locals organize a traditional festival in the hopes of a bountiful harvest. It was a fun and lively festival, and it would have been a beautiful memory for me if it hadn't been for that terrifying dormitory. We were housed in the dormitory of an old school. Even though it had been renovated, the place was still thick with the smell of damp moss and rust. Despite that, being college kids, we were filled more with curiosity than caution and just wanted to explore the place. The room they gave us was large, filled with old iron bunk beds. I've always been a light sleeper, so I prefer a bit of quiet. I spotted a single bed in the far corner of the room. It looked older than the others, the iron frame slightly bent, but it meant I wouldn't have someone sleeping above me. It was perfect. I claimed it immediately. As I was unpacking, I saw something out of the corner of my eye, a flash of movement in the hallway. A girl with long, dark hair gliding past our open door. It was strange. Our wing was strictly for the male volunteers. The girls' dorm was in a separate building across the campus, a good distance away. I mentioned it to my friends. Jack, my best friend, just laughed. "Dude, you've been here 5 minutes and you're already seeing things. Or maybe one of the girls has a crush on you and couldn't wait to check you out." We all chuckled, falling back into the easy, stupid jokes of college boys. We were so caught up in our own world that we never noticed the pair of eyes watching us from the shadows of the hallway. We never felt the silence that fell just outside our door. That night we were exhausted. We'd spent the entire day building the stage for the festival, hauling wood and equipment under the hot California sun. The moment my head hit the pillow, I was out. I thought I would sleep straight through until morning. I didn't expect to be woken up by the cold. It wasn't a normal chill. It was a deep, penetrating cold that seemed to seep into my bones, making me shiver uncontrollably. I sat up, my breath fogging in the air. I looked towards the door. It was wide open, framing a rectangle of perfect, impenetrable darkness. I figured someone had forgotten to close it properly. I started to get up, my only thought to shut out the cold, when a shadow detached itself from the darkness in the doorway. A girl with long, dark, disheveled hair. I jolted awake, my heart pounding against my ribs. I was sitting bolt upright in bed. I frantically looked around. The cold was gone. The door was shut tight, just as we had left it. Nothing had happened. It was just a nightmare, I breathed, a wave of relief washing over me. I reached for my phone on the nightstand to check the time. It was exactly 3 a.m. I took a deep breath, shook my head, and forced myself back to sleep. The next morning, I told Jack and the guys about it. Of course, they just teased me. "Did you see her face? Was she pretty?" Jack chimed in. "Probably not, 'cause if she was, this would be a whole different story," he joked. I laughed along. It had to be a nightmare. Just a weird, vivid dream caused by not being used to the new place, right? The next day was just as grueling as the first. When night fell, I was ready to sleep for a week. I climbed into that same old bed, pulled the thin blanket up to my chin, and drifted off. And then the cold came back. This time it was worse. It felt like ice water on my skin. I shivered, my teeth chattering. A low whistling sound filled the room, like wind rushing past my ear, even though the air was completely still. My heart started to pound in my chest. I knew what was coming. I slowly, hesitantly turned my head towards the door. The large door was wide open, but no one was standing there. For a second, I felt a surge of relief. But then I looked back towards the center of the room. She was there, the woman from my dream, standing right in the middle of our room. This time, she wasn't a shadow. I could see her very clearly. Her long, dark hair covered most of her face, but I could see her eyes, large and dark, fixed on me. And then, she simply stood there, watching me from the center of the room. I was frozen for a moment, and in that same instant I was awake again. I was hyperventilating, my body drenched in a cold sweat. But I was safe. It was just another dream. A more terrifying one, but still just a dream. My hand trembled as I reached for my phone, needing the comfort of its light. I pressed the home button. The screen lit up. 3 a.m. exactly. The next day I couldn't pretend it was a joke anymore. I didn't tell the whole group, just Jack. I told him everything, my voice low and serious. He didn't laugh this time. He could see the genuine fear in my eyes. "Dude, that's messed up," he said, his own face pale. "You can't sleep in that bed tonight, no way." "But where am I supposed to sleep?" I asked. "The floor? It's freezing in here as it is." We debated for a while. And then Jack, in a moment of bravery and curiosity that I will never forget, looked at me with a determined expression. "I'll do it," he said. "I'll sleep in your bed tonight. We'll see if anything happens to me." I tried to talk him out of it. I was genuinely scared for him. But he was determined. He insisted it was the only way to know for sure if it was just me, or if it was the bed. So reluctantly we switched. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in Jack's bed, staring into the darkness, listening to every creak and groan of the old building. Every so often, I'd tiptoe over to his bed. He was sleeping soundly, his breathing deep and even. Each time, I'd feel a little bit of relief and go back to my own bed, telling myself it was all in my head. But then, just as it had the past 2 nights, I woke up. I didn't need to check the time. I could feel it, that familiar, dreadful hour. I still grabbed my phone. 3 lisp. A cold dread washed over me. I immediately jumped out of a bed and ran to Jack. I shook his shoulder. "Jack, wake up, Jack!" But he didn't move. I shook him harder. Nothing. His body was unnaturally still. His breathing was shallow but steady. A cold sweat beaded on his forehead. A sense of panic rose in my chest. I started shaking him with more urgency. The other guys in the room started to stir, woken by the commotion. We were all around him now, calling his name, completely helpless. I didn't know what else to do. I just kept shaking him, my voice pleading. "Come on, Jack, please, man, wake up. You're scaring us. Just wake up." And then, as suddenly as it had happened to my dad years ago, Jack gasped, a deep, shuddering intake of breath. His eyes flew open wide with a terror I had never seen before. We didn't tell this story to anyone, afraid that to others this would just be a fabricated story. I found out later that in the few minutes we were desperately trying to wake him, he had been trapped in a dream. He was standing in our dorm room watching the door creak open. The woman with the long dark hair would appear, stare at him, and then the dream would reset. The door would close, then creak open again. The woman would appear again, over and over and over. Jack knew he was dreaming, but felt completely unable to wake up. He said he felt a deep sense of disorientation and confusion, a feeling that the strange, repeating scene might go on forever. We moved to the girls' dormitory that same morning. We didn't care about the rules. We told the organizers one of our friends was sick and needed to be closer to the main office. They let us move, and the nightmares stopped. But even now, years later, Jack still tells me that sometimes when he wakes up in the middle of the night for a split second, he can't tell if he's really awake or if he's still in that room waiting for the door to creak open again. He says that sometimes, even now, he's not entirely sure.